nuclear holocaust, relentless slaughter, and total annihilation. The war humanity fears is coming. That's the prediction made by history's greatest prophet, Nostradamus. 500 years ago, Nostradamus scribed thousands of coded prophecies.
What he saw, no one could survive.
These visions of future catastrophes are as terrifying as they come.
Famine, plague, floods, volcanoes. From the droughts, there is fire, death of millions.
Many of his predictions have already come true.
Oh my God!
From the rise of Hitler to the assassination of JFK and the 9/11 terrorist attack. But the discovery of a lost book bearing his name suggests the worst is yet to come.
He was witnessing the end of the world.
Disasters so enormous that they would wipe out the whole human race.
How will it happen? When will it happen? For the first time, experts decode the warning signs and reveal, can the world be saved? The world is very close to witnessing one of Nostradamus's most horrific predictions. And it will be an event that marks the beginning of the end.
We are at the White House, you guys. Made it to the South Lawn.
What happens if a terrorist group has access to a device, something in a truck? It's a flash, it just goes.
Oh my God! What? Oh!
2 days after this blast, the world as we know it will be destroyed.
Oh my God!
16th century France. Nostradamus publishes over 900 four-line poems called quatrains, with thousands of terrifying prophecies hidden within.
Nostradamus predicted many events: earthquakes, fires, floods, wars, often culminating with one climactic event.
A gifted physician and astrologer, Nostradamus is also cursed with a terrifying otherworldly power, horrific visions of the future.
I understand him as a man who lived in two worlds. A world that he viewed as scientific and structured through his astronomy and astrology, and also a world that was caught up with visions that were barely within his control.
I cannot even begin to imagine how disturbing and distressing and unnerving having those things play around in your head must have been for this man. And he dealt with it, and he shared it, he wrote it down, and here we are, centuries later, and we're still talking about it.
Why are we talking about him? Because hundreds of his predictions have come true. This includes one of the worst tragedies of the nuclear age, the Chernobyl disaster.
The warlike arms are prohibited. This is in connection with the cutbacks that were done, which then caused the explosion that happened at Chernobyl. murdered by water. The line that refers to the radiation from the accident and how it has affected the food supply and actually poisoning it.
Yet the Chernobyl disaster is nothing compared to the nuclear holocaust the great prophet predicts the future holds.
Nostradamus didn't have the knowledge of what nuclear power is, but still the warnings needed to be made.
In his time, many simply see the prophet as insane, a compelling reason for him to camouflage his prophecies in mysterious prose. Unlocking the truth hidden in Quatrain 955, experts reveal the world's impending atomic doom.
The horrible war which is being prepared in the West. This is a pretty clear picture. There is a horrible war probably in the United States, and what we would identify as a nuclear war. He's implying that neither the young, nor the old, nor the beasts will survive it.
The more experts dig in, the more specific the great seer appears to get, including the revelation of an exact date.
Fire, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter. If we're looking at Mercury, Mars, and Jupiter aligned in a fire sign, the next time that happens is June 2038.
His quatrains divulge everything, from where to how and when this nuclear Armageddon will ignite.
I don't think it needs a lot of imagination to see this as a reference to a nuclear disaster. We have this power that is coming from the Great Fire, causing the death of steel, which is melted. It could be something like Chernobyl disaster, natural disaster, or an attack.
This terrifying warning is backed up by legendary medium Dolores Cannon.
My mother, Dolores Cannon, was a hypnotherapist working with past life regression, and while working with a client, made contact with Nostradamus.
He gave me the instructions on how to locate him and tests to perform so I would know it was actually him that I was speaking to each time.
Nostradamus confirms through Dolores that his prediction of an American power plant disaster will be caused by a deliberate act.
Nostradamus is telling my mother, Dolores Cannon, about bombs hitting the nuclear plants in the U.S.
Nostradamus also pinpoints exactly where the disaster will strike.
In her interpretation that she received, she does state that Washington, D.C. will be wiped out.
A terrifying vision, even more frightening, considering the cataclysmic potential of nuclear power plants.
Nuclear power generation, it's very simple science. It's the kind of reaction that occurs in stars.
The United States has dozens of nuclear power plants all around the country, including 2 outside Washington, D.C.
It is an incredible safe way to create power, but if the safeguards aren't in place, huge catastrophic problems can happen.
For those working in and around the power plant, the effects of the blast will be immediate and horrific.
Oh my God.
You'll probably experience at least a blunt force trauma. And you may succumb to that.
You'll have people that were exposed to various poisonous gases that may have been released.
If the initial blast isn't bad enough, the explosion will cause the facility to go into nuclear meltdown.
A nuclear meltdown is when the core of a nuclear reactor starts to melt. The facility can't handle it.
Right nearby is completely lethal. Like, you get near it, you're going to die.
And you have radiation start to spread, start to kill things, start to destroy things.
You're dying in minutes. Ionizing radiation is destroying your DNA. It's cooking your flesh. It's boiling your blood. Your flesh could literally liquefy and fall off your bones.
If Nostradamus is correct, our nuclear apocalypse will be a deliberate attack. But what evil figure will be responsible? The horrifying truth may be hiding in a mysterious lost book. If so, is there a way to save the world? In 2038, Nostradamus predicts terrorists will attack a power plant near Washington, D.C. The attack will start a nuclear apocalypse and the end of all humanity. But who will be responsible? The world's leading experts believe the seer's famous prophecies suggest the Antichrist.
Nostradamus predicts not one, not two, but three separate antichrists that emerge over the course of human history. One of them is Hitler. Most other scholars also identify Napoleon Bonaparte. And that leaves an antichrist number 3 that we don't know for sure.
The Antichrist is pure evil in human form.
The Antichrist is a human being who rises to power, who plays a role in the unfolding of this greater drama that brings about the end of the world.
Is it possible that this individual is already among us? Or maybe among us soon? Wouldn't it be interesting if this person is alive and breathing and even making friends with some very influential people around the world?
There are some connections to coming from the East. So does that mean we need to look for an Antichrist in the East, specifically China? There are a lot of questions about human rights violations. There's a lot of questions about the way in which that presidency is carried out.
Could a future Chinese leader be behind the nuclear power plant attack in D.C.? The only thing anyone can be certain of is the initial nuclear blast will mutilate everyone nearby.
Not only are you going to get this explosive shrapnel, but now imagine that shrapnel is radioactive. And when that penetrates the skin, when it, touches people, you might survive a shrapnel hit from a conventional weapon, but your body might not survive a shrapnel attack from a radioactive shard.
Radiation burns are burns of the skin where the skin sloughs off. It just boils off, and you generally have a bullous formation. You have a pustule that then just pops open and leaks out. After exposure to radiation, it really closes a place off that can't be visited. It becomes a restricted zone.
The idea of losing your capital, losing Congress, losing the Supreme Court, losing hundreds of thousands of people would be a tremendous blow to where the U.S. stands globally.
If this isn't terrifying enough, the real horror hidden in Nostradamus' infamous quatrains exists in one final line.
Noise and light extending towards Aquilon. Noise, enormous amount of noise, enormous light before the actual wave of death itself, Aquilon. This immediately brought to mind the Roman god of the wind, Aquila, and that ties in entirely with the wind that comes from nuclear blast.
Death on the wind, that's exactly what this is. The world has never seen anything like this before. This nuclear material doesn't just sit in this one spot. It actually goes up into the atmosphere. So just look at the wind patterns across the country. This stuff is going to be spread everywhere.
It would be a devastating impact where poisoned water would go down into the Gulf of California, Mexico, and all along the southern part of North America into Central America. It could get caught up in the Great Pacific Currents and go all the way back to Japan, Australia, Hawaii.
Chillingly, this is just the start of Nostradamus' nuclear predictions. Mere hours later, another of his end-of-days prophecies is set to strike.
When Nostradamus wrote, "A burning torch will be seen in the sky," that was him referencing an explosion occurring. If you lived in the 1500s, you're trying to describe what an explosion would look like. It would look like a burning torch in the sky. Nostradamus' reference to the beginning and the end of the Rhone River would simply mean that it starts near Lake Geneva in Switzerland.
Geneva is where a great deal of world summits, where world government meets to discuss things like the Geneva Convention, to discuss sort of the direction in which we want to try to steer the world. If this is foretelling a near future event for us, is it aimed at the sort of summits that world leaders will have there? That would be crippling if it were the case.
Experts believe that Nostradamus' grim visions of a nuclear attack on Geneva would likely be the result of another strike from the Antichrist.
There are ways that terrorism and fear can be released just from a small package of nuclear material, or a dirty bomb.
A dirty bomb is a conventional explosive device that just happens to have radioactive material attached to it.
What happens if a terrorist group has access to a device? It goes off during a summit meeting, during a UN conference in Geneva.
With attacks taking place around the world, there is reason for great concern. Nostradamus' terrifying visions predict things getting much, much worse. According to Nostradamus, in June 2038, the third Antichrist will launch a global terror attack. Within a day, half the world will be decimated. But who is the Antichrist? And can they and Nostradamus' predictions be stopped?
He is inherently cruel. He is a warmonger. He is someone who leads the world astray, indulging greed and wrath, bringing death in his wake. A lot of theories that this might be somebody from the Islamic world because of a reference to a man in a blue turban.
ISIS might be able to take advantage of a city meeting some major event. I think it's possible for anything when it comes to ISIS and their plans to recreate the caliphate and expand it to the entire planet. They could cause a lot of upheaval. They could cause a lot of damage.
Whoever bombs the United Nations in Switzerland, their mission to cause maximum damage succeeds. The blast will send deadly radiation all over the city of Geneva.
A small-yield device that caused localized thermal and destructive damage, but irradiate the area. Radioactive clouds of waste carting down the sidewalk.
There's radiation poisoning, that their bodies are now getting ravaged by the spread and that fallout from all of that radioactive material that got spread through the city.
Radiation doesn't care about identity. Everybody is gonna suffer.
There will be no stopping the radiation's destructive path.
Geneva has an extensive aquifer system. All of the groundwater would be contaminated with radioactive material directly into the drinking water. Your situation goes from bad to worse to terrible.
Death and suffering spread quickly all over Europe, sending the entire world into a state of total chaos.
If it was during a meeting with heads of state from all over the world and we lost them all in one go, that could have catastrophic consequences.
Now the world as a whole has a massive power vacuum because the countries that weren't playing well with others now have an opportunity to take over and to fill that vacuum that is now left behind.
Your leader is dead. Your country is in shambles. When something like that happens, you're crippling multiple nations at once, and you're instilling this beautiful sense of fear. You can have governmental coup at that point. You're destabilizing multiple regions at once. If you make them unable to rule, then the populace can be attacked, their governments, their source of economy, socio-political environment, all of that can be altered.
It would be the kind of thing that would be hard, if not impossible, to come back from.
It's ending the world mentally for millions and possibly billions of people.
A nuclear apocalypse spreads horror throughout the globe, exactly as seen by Nostradamus in the dark rituals he practiced.
What he would do is lock himself away late at night. He would sit on a brass tripod on this little stool in front of his table of the art. He describes having a rod or a wand, which places his technique firmly in the realm of ceremonial magic. At night, he would let his visions flow that would allow him to peel back the curtain of reality and peer through into the future.
I've never had those types of imagery inside my head to that degree, and I honestly cannot imagine what it would be like to be inside the head of Nostradamus, to be able to see what he saw, experience what he experienced.
Consider the amount of strength as well as the personal sacrifice that has to come about night after night to watch the end of the world.
Efforts to decode all of Nostradamus's texts and paintings are underway. But can the experts identify the third Antichrist before all of humanity is lost? Chances are, it may already be too late. June 2038. As Nostradamus predicted 5 centuries ago, Cities around the world are under attack. This nuclear Armageddon is all due to a malevolent third Antichrist.
A human being who fits some very specific criteria in terms of power, a lack of empathy, an inborn evil, and the abuse of that power.
What could be more horrifying than to think that you've got evil incarnate that is being set free amongst the world? And it is his goal to just create man. Holy crap, that's horrifying.
ISIS and a future Chinese leader are already in the frame. But another world leader stands to gain even more from the collapse of the US and the United Nations.
Russia was often in the running for where the next Antichrist would come from.
A notoriously power-hungry nation. Could Russia be at the top of the spear Nostradamus saw? All it takes is a future leader with the will to press the button.
Someone who has no problems having enemies assassinated. Someone who rules his country with an iron fist, and certainly also has the ambition.
Evidence suggests Nostradamus suffered waking nightmares of the destruction this future third Antichrist will cause. A horror reflected in perhaps the darkest of all his prophecies.
I really love quatrain number 2-6. Near the ports, within two cities, what he's describing is where the United States dropped the nuclear bombs on Japan. Both Nagasaki and Hiroshima are port cities. Scourge is a punishment, the likes of which has never been seen. The real clincher is this. Hundreds of years before the event happened, Nostradamus accurately quoted what our president said in his press conference after we dropped the first bomb.
They may expect a reign of ruin, the like of which has never been seen.
And that's exactly what Nostradamus wrote in this quatrain.
And then, in quatrain 499, Nostradamus describes visions for the world's descent into all-out nuclear war.
Living in the 1500s, technology was not very advanced back then. So what words would he use to describe something like a rocket or a missile? Well, thunderbolts, something traveling through the air, something destructive. He's warning about a ruler that will launch a massive missile attack onto the Hesperians. Hesperia being Latin for the West, meaning us in the New World.
This interpretation is backed up by a mysterious image found in an ancient book bearing the great seer's name.
There's a text that was found in Italy that dates to the early 1600s that is often known as the Lost Book of Nostradamus. The book is a collection of images, watercolors, that's by his son Cesar.
In this image, we are seeing a man who looks quite ill. He looks very sick and unwell, and he's holding in front of him a book. It looks very much like the mushroom cloud following a nuclear blast.
Could this be an indication of destruction that was foreseen centuries before the creation of nuclear armaments?
The visions suffered by Nostradamus reveal an otherwise unimaginable destructive power.
A nuclear bomb releases an amazing amount of power. Power is released in heat and a blast wave. Right now, the average yield is 440 kilotons. That's 30 times more powerful than the 2 bombs dropped in World War II.
This is really why nuclear weapons are revolutionary. They can combine just an incredible amount of destructive power into a physically small package.
ISIS, China, Russia, or an unknown, an evil force is out there, preparing to launch the world into the abyss. Experts have to dig deep beyond Nostradamus' quatrains to find the truth. Did he provide the world with the information to stop our nuclear apocalypse? June 2038. A series of nuclear terrorist attacks by Nostradamus' notorious Third Antichrist decimate the US and Europe, hurtling the world towards the end of days. But experts believe beyond the infamous quatrains, the great prophet left clues to stop it all. Clues that reveal the individual responsible. It's all in a famous letter written by Nostradamus to King Henry II of France.
Then shall begin the grand empire of the Antichrist in the region of the former empire of Attila. In this paragraph, we wonder, well, who are the adversaries here that he's making a reference to, the Antichrist? Obviously, by including the word former empire of Attila, he is definitely including Russia in that group of nations. That will be the source of the troubles coming ahead for the nations of NATO.
The final stages of Nostradamus' nuclear apocalypse draw near. Whoever is responsible no longer matters. The world's 2 biggest superpowers have been brought to war, just as the prophecy suggests.
We know what happens when the U.S. goes on the path of vengeance, when it goes on the path of reprisal.
The United States and Russia have 90% or more of the world's nuclear weapons, and they have the potential to get into an all-out nuclear war. Nuclear weapons can be delivered across the entire planet by ballistic missiles. Within 30 minutes, a million-ton explosive power warhead could be tossed from the middle of the United States to the middle of Russia, and the same thing the other way. The bulk of today's nuclear warheads are pointed at military targets. They aim their nuclear weapons at the other side's nuclear weapons. This would really be a signal meant to tell Russia that the United States was serious about the stakes in whatever conflict was underway.
If one weapon was released, if it was considered an act of war, that would need a response.
Then we're off to the races, and the possibility of nuclear escalation is very real.
Once the first military nuclear strike since World War II is launched, there will be no turning back from an all-out firefight. The horrifying reality of our end of days is fully underway.
As the United States responds, Russia feels that it has to use a nuclear weapon and could be targeted towards a major American city like Manhattan.
The nuclear bomb is gonna go off in the atmosphere above the ground, so it has the maximum impact. This is like creating a small sun in the Earth's atmosphere, and it's incredibly hot and it's incredibly bright.
The blast will be as catastrophic as the visions Nostradamus had 5 centuries before.
The effects would be beyond horrific. Just a single medium-sized warhead in a city like New York would kill hundreds of thousands of people immediately.
The air in that environment rapidly expands outward, and this creates a blast wave that knocks down buildings, sends everything flying.
And this shock wave is the deadliest part of the nuke. Think of it as a supersonic blast of air that's carrying, parts of buildings with it, rebar, anything that it can blast apart and take along with it is headed your way. It is shining so brightly. It is brighter than the sun. Everything that's touching the fireball is vaporized. It's literally turned into a cloud of atoms.
If you are nearby, you're vaporized instantly, leaving a shadow eerily enough.
Those who are instantly turned into dust are the lucky ones.
The heat and the energy of the radiation is going to really have some of the skin feel like it's melting off of you, just liquefying and exposing the underlayers of the skin. It can destroy the whole body. It can liquefy the body.
It turns people into radioactive goo.
It's painful, it's horrible. Fire blasts, it's boiled eyeballs, vaporized blood. It's an ugly, ugly, ugly death, but at least it's fast.
When the nuclear apocalypse comes, the world will be destroyed before our very eyes. The clock is ticking. The climax of Nostradamus' terrifying prophecy is just around the corner. In June 2038, the world will face a horrifying reality.
Oh my God!
A series of nuclear catastrophes predicted by legendary seer Nostradamus 500 years ago. It begins with a terrorist attack on a nuclear power plant. The blast obliterates everyone living near Washington, D.C.
It's cooking your flesh, it's boiling your blood, it's reducing your innards to steam.
Nuclear fallout kills people all across America.
Death on the wind. That's exactly what this is.
Hours later, a dirty bomb rips through a United Nations summit, killing many world leaders.
You're crippling multiple nations at once, and you're instilling this beautiful sense of fear.
Nuclear waste enters the water system, spreading poison throughout Europe.
Your situation goes from bad to worse to terrible.
Nostradamus suggests the man behind the horror is the infamous third Antichrist.
Someone who rules his country with an iron fist.
The world's nuclear powers will be forced to plunge into all-out war.
The effects would be beyond horrific.
It's boiled eyeballs, it's vaporized blood, it's an ugly, ugly, ugly death.
If all this comes true, no human can survive. The world has reached the point of no return.
We would have to respond in kind. Buttons will be pressed, missiles will fly, people will die. They launch one, we launch 5, they launch 10 more on top of that, and then all of a sudden each arsenal is going back and forth.
What we would really end up with is the exchange of more than 1,000 nuclear warheads. These would strike at a range of targets in both countries, and ultimately, once military targets had been struck, cities would be struck.
Giant bombs going off all over the planet simultaneously. So we're talking about millions of people being killed at one time.
Even those who survive the bombs cannot escape the apocalyptic wrath of Nostradamus' prophecies.
A large enough conflict would kill the rest of the world.
The horror of nuclear bombs doesn't end with the explosion.
The sheer amount of material thrust into the atmosphere by these explosions, by burning forests, by burning cities, would be so great that it would create almost a shield around the Earth that would deflect sunlight and result in temperatures drastically falling.
So much material gets thrown into the atmosphere, the planet could be plunged into what we call nuclear winter.
Not only do you have huge swaths of clouds, you have acid rain, nuclear rain falling on the planet.
That means there's no crops. So the base of our human food chain is going to collapse.
It's not just one country or one city that's impacted, it's everybody.
Nothing that we've set up as a civilization will work anymore in the event of a nuclear winter.
Even if the war is over, how do you begin again in a blasted land that is full of radiation, where the animals have suffered, where the land has suffered, where the climate is irrevocably changed?
The idea of hellscape comes into my mind, but that doesn't do it justice on how bad a whole blown out nuclear attack would be. This is truly the end of the world.
In 1938, we split the atom. 400 years earlier, Nostradamus warned us of the destruction nuclear power could bring. In 2038, all of mankind will pay the price. Our nuclear apocalypse. Our end of days. Are you prepared?